China this time. She's been extensively busy with all her travels, and we've been planning this session for a while, and I'm happy that we're finally doing this. And the whole idea is to do something around team culture. And I'm not going to dwell on any more questions and everything, but we keep chewing your brain in between. But Deepa is a charter member with Dubai. She gives out time mentoring, and this is the first time we roped her in for speaking. And we're going to do more of this. She runs a healthcare venture called Jivanti, and I'm going to allow her to speak more and not take too much of her time because we want to have enough time for a Q&A. But sure. Please tell us a little bit about Jivanti as well as yourself. Okay.
Right. So first, it's nice to see so many of you. Like I was saying to Z, that Thai is pretty dynamic, and we never know what happens. In the next half of the day. So we promise to come and then don't come, but it's all in the interest of what we do. So it's really nice to see all of you here. So I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I am what I call an accidental entrepreneur. Okay, never intended to be one, never imagined I would ever be one. But I started my career in the NGO space. So I graduated from TSS in social work. And then I ventured into working with crime and criminology and criminals and all of that. So that is, in a sense, I think social work has an entrepreneurial attitude, because really there's nothing around and you've got to start looking for things, you've got to create things. So there's a huge amount of, the mindset is quite entrepreneurial. And it's about starting something, seeing it to its logical conclusion, trying to rope in as many resources. You're really playing all hats and all games at the same time. I did that for about 15 years. Worked in India, worked in Arthur Road, did all of that stuff, and then moved, worked in the UK, worked in Africa, and then I came back to India. And while I was in Africa, I started doing, I wasn't allowed to work, as in formally work, because legally it was not allowed. So I started doing some voluntary work, wherein I was trying to get in these kids who worked in markets, focus markets, try and get them life skills. Life skills about, how to manage your money, how to ensure that I'm taking care of the next day, and, little
Sorry for being late.
So that's what I did, and then as we went along, I realized that a lot of the work we do has to do with people, and how do we get them going? So that's what got me interested in understanding group dynamics, different social work tends to be very one-on-one, or it's a group of people, but again the relationships tend to be one-on-one, and taking care of their individual needs. So here it was about what are the dynamics, how do groups work. So I started investing all of my time and energy in that. And then as we went along, my mentors decided she wanted to start an organization. And I had nothing else to do. I just come back to India, really nothing else to do. So I said, I'll join you. And we started, that was my first entry. And we started Resonate Consulting. I didn't know a squat about corporates, how they worked, never stepped in, not used to their culture, not used to their ways. But I learned along the way, and that's how, and my mentor was in OD Consulting, Organization Development Consulting. So we started this company, we started going, my mentor, I was a mentee. And we started the company, started working, I learned along the way. And then I realized, the whole, the mix and the match that happens there. And it's really all about how you work with people. It's all about understanding how each of us interact with one another, and what makes us tick, what moves us forward, what holds us back. So having done all of that, and then my husband was also in first profession was in pharmacy, did his M.Pharm, and then he dumped it and then got into did an MBA. And then he got this brainwave and said, okay, let's start this diagnostic center. So that was our first venture, and now my business partner, Arun Das, the two of them were friends and worked together. So, and here we are with this grand idea, and very young family, not ready to plunge in, and I hadn't been formally working, just come back, all of that. So I said, okay, fine. Either you wait till I start earning, and then you can take a break, or you let me manage it. So it was easier for me to manage it, and that's how I got into entrepreneurship and all the headaches. And I was cursing myself every single day. What the hell am I doing here? I should be going out and doing what I like. But I think along the way I learned a lot, and I think what's really helped or worked with me, which is really what I want to share, and how to take this this conversation forward, is it's really about the way we manage our people will result in whether we're profitable or not, or how profitable we are or not. And there is a real direct link. If you stop to think about it, typically we say that's a soft skill, it's not required, it's all about operational HR and, whether you pay PF and you comply with the law and all of that stuff. But, there is the other side of it, what we like to call the softer part of it, which is really the meaningful part. It will get you there or not get you there. Okay? So that was our first venture. We've been in healthcare for about 7 years, and then we realized about 5 years after, we realized that really what we were doing is this one little diagnostic center which was doing XYZ and not making too much of an impact. So we decided as we went along, we found that there's so much more to do. There's an impact we can make, and it sort of really pained us to see that people who work or live far away just because they can't afford to live in the island city, actually suffer, and they don't have healthcare. And by the time they get to a center, they're half day or day, and it was not necessary. So we started Jivanti Healthcare with the whole idea of setting up hospitals, 50-bed hospitals, secondary care hospitals in the smaller towns. So we thought we'd go to two-tier towns. We went to Sangam there, and we went here and there and all that, and then realized actually they're not that low. We have Bhiwandi and we have Amarnath who are calling out for work like ours. So we started our first two hospitals, one in Amarnath, one in Bhiwandi. So what we have now is a very large team. Because it's healthcare and because very people intensive, it's sort of like retail, and it is not retail, it's highly specialized, it's very knowledge focused. So the dynamics are pretty, it's quite intensive. It cuts across a number of boundaries, it cuts across egos, it cuts across all sorts of things. And yet we have to put it up. So today what I'm going to do is, that's about me, and that's where I am and why I'm here. So what we're going to try and do today is, I'm not going to get into the parts of HR. Okay? At Jivanti we call ourselves as HR and IB, because HR is the operational part of it. IB is institution building, and we believe that people build institutions. And what we do with our people and how we work with them is what is going to build an institution. So we call it HR and IB. And the focus of IB is all about people, processes we run with people, their development and assessments and all of that. Whereas the HR part of it is pure operations. Legal compliances, getting their salaries run on time, payrolls, leave, all of that. And we also believe that what can be mechanized, we shouldn't interfere with. So all of that is mechanized. And the rest of the time we spend talking to and being with people. Like a student who's interning with us right now, he said one thing he learned from Jivanti is you can't talk enough. He says that's what he's learned. He says you have to talk. And there isn't enough of talking that can happen. The more you interact, the more you talk with your people, the more you get to know what they do, and how they do, and what their needs are, and how you change that. So I think that's the IB part of it for us. So today what we're going to do is, I'm not going to go into those very, we're trying to look at what really, how to kind of understand what builds a team. Okay? What are the different factors, the elements that build a team? And I'm not talking about team of people. I'm talking about the other aspects of it, the world around us that helps us build a team. That's what we're going to look at. It's a very short, we have very little time. I would like you to interact, ask more questions, ask questions that come from from your field, from the challenges that you face. Yeah, and really nice to know that there are different kinds of people here running different kinds of team. I'm particularly keen on, you chose to have a team size of 10 or 12 and not more, and that's a conscious decision there. We chose to have a team size of 30, 40 because that's our occupancy, right? We match the occupancy. So it's each one of us have a different reason for choosing our team size and what constitutes it. So we'll start with, this is where we're going to start from, right? So today we will start talking about understanding teams in a very layman way. What I mean by layman is we're going to talk about what it means to us, day to day, as we work every single day. What are the kind of issues? And really I'd like all of you to also chip in, share your experiences, while I share mine. Yeah? So, so we here go on what is a team? What are the types of team we work with? And team building versus teamwork. Okay? So that's what we will start with right now. This is what I believe is a team. Can you see the back? So we look at it, essentially what we're saying is it's a group of people. It's not a small group here, but it's really a small group of people. A number of people who get together. Key words in here is diverse. Okay, they have skills that are diverse, they have ways and means which are diverse. Right? They have to work together. So again, the working together is what constitutes a team. Right? You have common purpose and they're collectively responsible for an outcome. Okay? So really what we're looking at is that it's common purpose, it's a collective responsibility. We don't get into a team just like that. Okay, the outcome could be let's just have fun, that's fine. Okay, but you go out with a group of friends, in a sense it's a team, the outcome is we're going to have fun. Or the outcome is, get $100 million. Whatever is that outcome, but it's common, right? And you have to work towards it. If on a team of 5 of us, one of us keeps fun, it essentially means that the other 4 are not going to have as much fun. Even if it's just going out for a drink. It means we're not going to have as much fun because we're -1, right? So this collective responsibility is a very integral part of working in a team, or what teams come there do. Yeah? So what are the team types? What are the kind of teams you have? What do you have teams for? What kind of teams do you have?
Game like cricket matches and all.
Pardon?
The matches and all.
Yeah,
sports.
okay. Yeah, sports teams. Yeah. What other teams do we have? What are the kinds of teams do we have?
Corporate teams, marketing teams, departments,
Yeah.
those teamwork, sales team,
Yeah.
so those kind of teams.
So function specific teams, or you consider your whole organization as one team?
As one team.
Like in teaching the faculties,
Yeah,
I come from
yeah.
academic
So
institutions.
yeah, departments, yeah, faculty.
But I would even say my customers, they are also my team, because I have to handle them.
I
You wanna
think,
take on that as well, right?
yeah, we do talk
Because I have
about,
to retain them.
right. So I think here there's a slight difference in what we call a team. Okay, your customers are a diverse lot of people. They come with
Stakeholders.
they are stakeholders. They come with an individual. Now it's not a collective responsibility to make you big, or they have a collective responsibility to their own organizations. Okay, so we don't really look at. You can, for you, yes, I can say that they're my client, they're my customers, and I treat them in a certain way, right? But their engagement with you is not the same as an engagement in a team, like a sports team, or a marketing team, or a sales team. The agenda is common to you, to your organization, to what they're there for. If your customers get together and they say, okay, now I want to tell you what is going to make you work. And I've got my customers together in a group. Now tell me, give me feedback about what is right and what is wrong and what I should do, what I shouldn't do. For that moment, there is a common agenda, which is to meet yours. But as a whole, as a diverse group out there who come and go on a daily basis, probably not a team. So when you say I'm my external customer, it also depends on what you're doing with your external customer. Are you, yeah.
What I meant really was the dealership team.
Yes.
Which is actually
Exactly.
servicing my customer. I
Exactly.
did not mean my customer.
Right.
I meant an external.
So your external team is your dealership team. Now that the external and internal, from my own experience, the way I see it, really it doesn't make a difference. I mean, we were consulting with this very large company who actually invited all their vendors and everybody part of it only because they believed that they needed to have a common idea and understand the agenda of the company so that they will deliver to their end customer. Yeah? So they are your team. But a disparate group of customers, probably not. Unless you bring them for a specific purpose. Okay? So broadly what we're saying is that the teams are there to recommend things. So I have a committee which tells me, this is
Advisory board kind of a thing.
yeah, this is a product you should buy. You know, or you will have a board and tells you this is the strategy you should follow. Okay, so that's what the teams that recommend things to you. There are teams that do things. So I have a project team, like in Jivanti we have. See, I have the advantage of being a consultant and a practitioner at the same time. So I also consult 3-4 times a year, but on a daily basis I have to work with my team there. So it kind of goes back and forth for me. So we have like what we call projects teams. Okay? Projects teams have limited work, but that's part of the overall team. Their job is to support and actually get things done. So if you have a new hospital and you have to construct things in that hospital, do up the infrastructure, then this is the team that goes there and does it. Right? So you have teams that do things, that support each other. And then you have teams that run things. So you would have an operations team, that do the day-to-day work, right? So you have different teams. Broadly, we can say we have teams that recommend things, teams that do things, and teams that run things. They're very broad classification of teams. Yeah. Anything you want to add? Any questions? Anything you want to say? No? Okay. So now we come to why a team and why a group. To me, a group that comes together to do something is also a team. So you will nearly go team, group.
What's the basic difference between the two? I was just trying to.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. In my mind, really it's not, so long as they've come with a common purpose. It's a group of people with a common purpose. To go out and have a drink and have fun. A bunch of friends. Okay? So the agenda is the same. There's a common agenda. So I tend to go back and forth between a group and a team and a group and a team. So long as there is a common agenda and a common purpose and a common goal to do something.
I feel a group, there is something which is very, very clear and superficial. That you are going out for picnic or for together parties and all that. Okay, there is nothing that each one of us, as per our skill, we have to contribute towards achieving the goal. Whereas in a team, people come from diverse skills, and then each one's skill is important and complementary, and that's required. The contributory concept is more. I'm just trying to think aloud. That's it.
Yeah, sure. Anybody wants to add to that? Say that.
Yeah, I want to add one thing. Like, I have worked in a team for now several years. It's always been our product management team. But my observation is, yes, the teamwork is to meet a common objective. But ultimately, the reality is something different. It's like, it's more of ego clashes, more of fights. That's the reality which I have experienced, okay?
Sure.
I'm sharing with you, okay? And still you have to be with them. Go and have lunch with them. Every time you have to be a part of them, okay? Like once there was a team building workshop which was organized by our seniors. And we thought like we would be given freedom to do anything, whatever we want, play games, this, that, whatever. But ultimately when we went there, it was the same thing. It's like offices outside. The same domination, the same thing, whatever they wanted we did, under the name of teamwork. So reality is something different, okay? So I want to ask you how can we change that mindset?
Okay, so what we're going to do is we will, as we run through this, we will address this issue that you raised.
Yeah, I think what she mentioned, I agree with her, because a team has a common objective to achieve and a group may not.
So we should only call like a group of people a team when they have something to achieve. So while we are saying that okay, when we are going to party, we have an objective to achieve, but we never think it like that, right? We don't have to put
It's
in
all
an effort.
conscious.
Right, so we don't have to put in like an effort, so actually everybody has to put in their skills and to reach an objective or to achieve that task that has been set as a goal. However, when it's a team, then it is that way.
Just the thought. I mean, from at least
Yeah.
from my work experience, right? So if you look at like law firms or accounting firms,
Yes.
you would have like a corporate law group, and then
Correct.
you would have a litigation practice group.
Correct.
But then teams are basically very client focused, and they work more closely. So don't you think a group is more loosely
Yes.
held?
That's exactly.
Versus team is more focused and hands-on maybe.
Yeah. Yes, you're absolutely right. That this is a sort of, there's a looseness about a group, and like you say, yes, we're all going with a common idea to have fun at a party, or you have a number of teams which then form groups. Okay, and then when you have to deal with a client or client's issue, then you pick up a member from each of these groups to sit down there, and they form the team to address the client's needs. Correct? So yes, there is both, but what I'm bringing in here is that even though it is a loosely structured, it is possible that some of the skills that we bring into a loosely structure, if I am in a foul mood and I come for a party, okay, I'm not going to, otherwise I'm a fun-loving, jovial person, I'm not going to contribute that part of myself, which that group is going to miss. They will have their fun without me, but they may have had more fun if I was there. So it is more loose, it is more unstructured, and whereas the team is a lot more focused.
No, another thought which came across, that team means, we have to work towards it, we have to contribute. While group is not, that we are not contributing, we are actually at the receiving end. Like we are going on a tour or a tourist group or visiting something together or attending a wedding or so, that's what I'm thinking. It's less contributing.
Sure.
So we are not expected to perform there. Just be
I
on time
suppose-
kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Just punctuality and these kind of the things
So the
which are important.
expectations are a lot fewer. Yeah, Deepa, to go.
Yeah, just to add from whatever my experience and whatever discussion, I think team is more cohesive in terms of the output. So it's 1 + 1 3 always, when it is a team. Whereas a group may be 1 + 1, it might be 2 or less than 2.
Yeah.
So a team is something which is where there is acceptance of each other's differences and respect towards each other, and while accepting each other and going together towards a common goal. So that is what differentiates between a group and a team.
Anything more
I think
you
you
want
can
to
form teams within the group.
Yes.
So group can
Absolutely.
be a team is a
Yes.
subset of a group.
Yes.
That's
It
one.
could be, yeah.
In events that
But
could happen.
I brought in this also. One is I like what we're talking about and differentiating and all of that. And as we go along, you will find I have used this interchangeably. But I've made a deliberate attempt to do that. And I'd like you to draw a distinction between the two as and when we go along. Okay? Because we tend to use this interchangeably. Right? And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. So long as you can, you understand the dynamics. And at that point in time, you might find, the word group works here better than the word team. And so but the dynamics are there. And what we're looking at, the dynamics in
Looking at person, you're looking at people.
Yes, people and the dynamics that happen within that. And that's what we focus on. Right, so why a team? And why a group? Why do we work in teams?
To pool in resources together and get the best
Yeah,
outcome.
absolutely. What else?
We need complementing skills.
Complementary skills, yes.
And we talk of diversity, and diversity cannot converge to a result unless we bring it together.
Exactly.
So
We will go into that as well, and we'll look at some other dynamics that allow us to do that.
like
I think
you
you need
said,
to read
1
out,
plus 1. In a team we'll make 3 or 4, but individually 1 plus 1 will be 2. So that's why team. So make it 3, 4, not 2.
So what we're saying here is that why do we work in teams? Why do we have teams? We're very social beings. Like we said, it can be quite lonely being an entrepreneur. So we come to time, we come to, Sri Shakti, we form groups. But we all have a common agenda in this group, which is to be successful. successful entrepreneurs or to do whatever we are doing in a certain way, learn from one another. So that's the agenda when we come here. Yeah. So we are social. Yeah, go on.
It's like when we used to hear in our childhood the story of the old man giving sticks to his son. Like you take one stick, you break it, and
bundle.
you take a bundle of stick, you cannot break it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's precisely that. We need to be together. We need to support one another. That's where we are. Okay. So it provides space for diverse thinking. As we said earlier, the team is made up of diverse skills, a number of things that come together. So if we are diverse and we have different kinds of things, or like Sharmila said, she has legal teams, different groups that come in and they offer a certain, you may have distributors who come in and he comes from a different geography, a different place, he comes with a different thinking. So there is this diversity and we have space for diversity and to sort of harness the goodness of that diversity. So teams give us that, and therefore teams are important. Okay, we're looking at it covers more ground, we get more done. It's the risk is spread, the tasks are spread. We support one another, right? It covers all ground. Many hats, many brains.
You also divide the work, right? The work is divided, so each one knows what they're supposed to do.
What we need to do, and we bring in our own thinking. So you cover more ground. We bring in more aspects of whatever is required. Yeah. So we're looking. It allows for greater people engagement and participation. So when we are in a team, what I'm talking about here is when probably you guys will have that on a daily basis. How do I get everybody in my organization engaged? How do I get them interested in what is going on? So I invite them to a team meeting and we're going to discuss, brainstorm on something.
When you brainstorm, an idea comes up.
Yes, exactly. So
you don't know, an idea can come up from Pion also, or maybe
precisely.
from Slav also.
Yeah. So what happens here is what we're doing is, as entrepreneurs, however, 25 retail stores, but at the end of the day, we have only that many resources who we're directly working with. Yeah. And as entrepreneurs, we are limited by that till we get to be 10,000 people and 20,000 people. And one day we will all get there. But until such time, we're limited by that. Right? So, therefore, engagement.
I also think there's a fundamental problem here. We talk of teams being diverse.
Yeah.
I think managing that diversity is really the key point of the whole thing.
Yes.
Because we are not tolerant to diversity.
You know what? I think I can just shut this and go. Yeah, I think, yes, that's exactly what we will come with. Yeah, and we will start talking about what is that diversity, where does it come from, and therefore we can start talking about how we manage that diversity. Yeah?
I think there's the card is used. You present the card.
Those things. Is it just comment section? For some reason, I don't know. Isn't come to
You can move that PC a little bit.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, you can see.
And we can read it out.
Okay.
I'm going to get it to
Or you can just tell the key points. And
Sure.
I can read out.
Interaction only.
Absolutely, yeah. Okay, so we just
So here also we can make a team and have that agenda.
Yeah.
That
Sorry?
here also we make a team and have that agenda. Look.
Yeah. Okay, so here we're talking about it allows for greater people engagement. Now this is really very, very critical. We don't recognize that forming groups. People like being invited. They like being part of decisions. They like being part of creativity. And just inviting, it's an opportunity. Creating a team is an opportunity to engage people, to get them involved and own up to whatever decisions that we take. Right? So again, we're talking about harnessing expertise. It allows for creative solutions. And most important, they really are this major force that brings in change. Yeah? You've bought their ownership, you've bought their creativity, you've brought it all into the organization. So what can come out of all of that can be quite amazing. So we're saying that they are a major force. None of us can ever say that we've accomplished anything if we didn't give credit to our teams. Your boss may not have done that to you, but at the end of the day, I think, they do realize that, and everybody realizes that, we don't accomplish anything unless, we've got a lot of heads and hands in there. Yeah?
I'd like to add, a real life example on this. We recently, for Florista, the biggest day of our business is Valentine's Day. And we prepare almost 1 month in advance, and it's crazy out there. Everybody fears this day as it comes here. We have 3 meetings to figure out how well are we going to be organized this year. So every year there are learnings that we document it, and we make sure that we implement those learnings. So when we have these meetings before Valentine's Day, so these are, I wouldn't call it group meetings because they come from different teams. So we have a call center team who is talking to a customer who places an order over the phone or email and through the website. Then there is a marketing team who actually talks to corporate customers who need bulk orders and so on and so forth. Then there is a shop supervisor team where the actual dispatch happens from a workshop. And then there are retail store teams who are actually a retail store where a customer walks in. So these are really, and there's a franchise team. So that's completely different. So when we try and decide, okay, this Valentine's Day, based on the learnings of last year, what are the new things that we need to implement so that we have as less mess ups as possible, because that way the volumes really, I think, quadruple, or what we're doing, 100 deliveries a day. Today, on Valentine's Day, this Valentine's Day, we did 450 deliveries. So it's that crazy. And, depending on the region. So we have the meeting where we have a shop supervisor coming in, a delivery boy coming in, an artist who's making the arrangement, he comes in, the call center team, 2 people from the call center team, from the marketing team. So that diverse. So you see the kind of, the education, the professionalism, and gender diversity, everything. It's a completely diverse team. And the kind of inputs that they all give, it's amazing. A delivery boy, the input that he gave this time, he said, when we go out for deliveries, they carry an acknowledgement slip where there's an address written on the recipient, there is a product code written, and the description written. Okay, it's a bunch of roses plus a soft toy plus cake, wine, whatever it is. So he says when we're carrying bulk of orders, it's we miss out on, every order has a combination of products, right? So one boy takes a van with another helper and he takes about 10-15 products and he goes along the way. So he's doing Khar, Bandra, samples, for example, if it is Bombay. So he says at that moment it's very difficult for us. We read it and then we pick up stuff. So he said if a colored picture is put out there, it's easier for us because we know that there's a cake one in this acknowledgement, so it's not going to get missed out. And that is something that we implemented.
Very small.
We actually printed stickers, small stamp size stickers, colored picture for it, and it really helped. So this is something I just remembered. And constantly of the software. So I have a corporate team member recommending that. They have software where every order is entered and inputted, so it becomes easier to, when a customer walks in, we know we can track, any year, which year, who has delivered the flowers, what is gone, everything can be tracked. So a little bit of upgrades in the software which saves their 2 minutes of time, because at that moment of time you have so many people calling up, everybody would want to, know a midnight delivery, an early morning delivery. So, so these are little small upgrades that we did this time, which took us about a week to, so we planned it really well in advance. So we've seen the, the kind of mishaps that happen on Valentine's Day has drastically reduced with all these things that we implemented. So
and I think at the end of the day, what also will happen is that your delivery boy is going to feel very happy that his little idea is
contributed.
The ownership. Yes, the ownership. And again, when you go back and says, why won't he leave you? He won't leave you because his ideas are heard.
Absolutely.
So
yeah, I think that's very important, building a team culture.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, where everything counts, everybody counts, every voice counts.
Because having a great, front office, front desk, taking great order, having an order worth, 10,000 rupees, but finally in the dispatch, if he messes up at that point, you've lost your face, you've lost your money, you've lost a customer, forever. So,
yeah, I just want to share with you, when you're talking about Valentine's Day being baby and this and that. for us in our business, Valentine's Day means a lot of MLCs, medical legal cases, because it, broken hearts, poison, cleaning the stomach. It's just the other side of it. The other side of Valentine's Day. Hot ones. So like I was, I saw in one of the hospitals, I saw about 3 medical, we mark, when we have a medical legal case, we're supposed to report to the police, so we mark it in red, it's MLC, it comes up on our system. And I saw 2 or 3. So I called the team, I said, what happened? One was a 14-year-old boy. So I have a colleague sitting next to me and he says to me, today's 16, 14 to ho gaya, to ab hona hi tha. So it's the other side of it, yeah. But again, to come back to this, I think what you're saying is also important, because what we're talking about here is we have very diverse teams. We have doctors and then we have ward boys, right? So the doctor is dependent on the ward boy to ensure that his patient is taken care of. He can do whatever he wants, whatever magic, cut open, do whatever. End of the day, it's the nurse who looks after every day, right? So we have this teams are about all of that. It's just about recognizing the contribution of each person. And really we can't go beyond that. Okay, so now we're looking at team building and teamwork. Any thoughts on that? Team building and teamwork.
Lagan.
Build a team together.
Bang on. Okay. Okay, so which one is it? What am I doing right now? Am I team building or am I team working?
I think if you build it automatically works.
Yeah, okay. So we'll go a little into this. What is teamwork? Okay, teamwork is actively working together. Okay, so there is active working. And you are working towards utilizing everybody's strength, and you're working towards a common goal in the most effective, efficient way possible. Okay, so teamwork is focused on an output, on the result. But to get that output, that result, we need to do something else, which is teamwork. Okay, so in team building, we're talking about planned activity. So a planned activity, what comes up when I say planned activity?
Marketing plans. For us, it is marketing activities.
Yeah.
We pre-decide the marketing activities for the next 3 months. Then we plan out who's going to do what part of that.
There is a thought process that goes into what you would like to achieve at the end. That would make a plan.
Okay.
Would be a vision, what you're looking. And the mission would be, I think,
Like
the
a
planned
business goal or
activity.
task.
Okay.
I think we just get organized. Because you diverse again. You don't get organized.
Laying out strategies
Yeah.
to achieve your target.
Yeah. Okay.
Planning your input, process and output in a proper manner.
Okay. We're talking here about people. Now this sounds like analyzing, gathering data, analyzing how it works, how it functions, so to increase effectiveness and efficiency, like you say, I have a strategy, marketing strategy, delivery strategy, planned activities, all of that, yeah? Just getting organized because it's chaotic otherwise, yeah? What we're saying in team building is when I'm working as a team, I'm alert and alive to what's happening in that moment, and I analyze the data that comes to me.
How about the skills? What kind of skills we require from the team, and do we have all the skills in place or not? Or do we
Yes.
need to do capacity building?
So,
I'm just
that,
thinking.
yes, that is when we come to that part. But
Okay.
here what we're talking about in the moment. This is the tricky bit.
It could be an example on this Ranbir Kapoor's movie had come,
Salesman.
Rocket Science.
Rocket Singh. He had done this planned activity, exactly what he wanted. He had picked up everybody and then he started a company.
It's very good entrepreneurial movie.
Very good.
Yeah,
Very good.
When we talk about our work, we have plans, we have strategies, we have all of those things, yeah? But when we're talking about how we work as a team,
In fact, movies like Lagan and Chak De India also is one of a very good
yeah,
examples
exactly.
of-
Because what we're talking about there is, and in that moment, if you look at a Chak De India or look at a Lagan, in that moment, what are the skills I need here, now, and then? Am I bringing that in? Who's, who's
Spinner.
who's in feeling low, who's feeling high, right? So what's happening between two people?
Team culture.
So it's the culture of that team, in that group, in that moment. So when we're saying data and analysis, gathering data, it's about how are we at this moment working as a team. So if we're sitting in this group, we're a largish team here. Who focus in a group, idea is to learn about teamwork, understand it, contribute. How are we working right here?
We are contributing our ideas.
Yeah, so there's contribution happening, there's participation. What else do we have here?
Learning also.
Pardon?
Learning also.
Learning, yeah. Sharing, yeah. So there's diversity, experiences coming in.
In fact, both the sides, like about Valentine's Day, I was just thinking the kind of thing you say, maybe none of us had that idea.
Yeah, we never thought about that. So what we're doing right now at this moment, while we're trying to figure out, we're building our team. What needs to come into this team in this moment to make it work? This is data gathering. This is understanding how we interact. And that's what we take forward to making a team work. So when we say, pardon me saying this, I'm pretty harsh and relentless on these team building exercises. But I come from a different school of thought, which is more, people and more, behavioral rather than, yeah. What you find is you can't do a team building activity in a day and say, okay, these are the exercises, we've done that and we go. Team building is an ongoing process.
They evolve
It's a
eventually.
minute by minute in every group, every team has a different dynamic, it has a different role to play, it has a different output, and it's a minute on minute. So if you have a trainer coming and saying to you that, I'll do a team building workshop, at the end of it, are they going to change behaviors? Are they going to make me wiser? Are they going to make me understand how we work, why we work the way we do? Are they going to tell me how I should
those are the icebreakers, those exercises are the icebreakers for team to connect. So there are teams, which might not be meeting each other, right? So that's a platform to connect. And maybe, and that's obviously that's an ongoing exercise. It can't happen in a day or two. So that's just an icebreaker to start. Maybe.
It is an icebreaker, but often we end with that.
Yeah.
We don't
There
and also the learning goes back into it. I believe that anybody who's part of a team is a team builder and a team worker. I don't think any of us here can sit down and say, it may be a group of doctors who are talking medical jargon, Sony, and I don't understand a squat. I don't understand a word. They're talking about placement of body parts and how if I, cut from here, I reach there and how I should avoid this. I don't understand the squat. But as a team member, if I find somebody else who's lost, my responsibility as the team member is to build that team, to create those connections and analysis. Who's sitting quiet? Why are they sitting quiet? What's happening there? How do I bring them in? It's an in the moment.
Involved. You mean involving everybody?
Involving myself completely, and it's an in the moment process. It doesn't happen out there.
I think an important part of team building, and you stressed upon it earlier also, is that every member is important. So what happens in a lot of team building is the quiet ones are left out, or the bad mood ones are left out, or ego hassles come in. But the important part is everyone is a member. Like she said, probably the doorman or the smallest guy in the organization can give you the best solutions. In team building, I think that's something you need to remember. In practice, it doesn't happen because we tend to keep our eyes focused on the important parts.
So really for us here, as leaders of organizations, it's the culture of teamwork that we bring in. The teamwork happens when we understand how to build a team in the moment. And that's our, that's where we come in as
leaders of organizations.
What if the team doesn't want to work together?
Well, I think that is, in fact, is a very important aspect of it. What is it about the team? The team doesn't want to work. So, what are the dynamics happening there? What's happening to each other? We'll go a little more into detail about, I'll just give you a snapshot, really jhalak into some of the factors that impact a team. It's very, very vast, but we'll just kind of, yeah. So how is it different? Team building is bringing your resources together. To start with, what we started off when we said, who is the best person for this? Who is the most knowledgeable? Who is the most experienced? So we bring these different people together. The delivery boy is the most knowledgeable about the difficulties he has in delivering and how to reduce errors. Yeah? So that's what we bring in there. So who is part of that team? Right? So that is bringing our resources together. Getting the job done is a teamwork effort. It's all about output. When we work well together, I have an output. Continuous process. Team building is, like I said, we're constantly analyzing, understanding who's doing what, why is it happening, not happening, how do I make it happen. It's like, the mason who's building a wall. Okay? If you observe, he gets to this corner, will take full bricks and he builds it till he gets to a corner, and then he suddenly realizes that he has to plug in that, so he chips off, and he plugs. That's really what we're doing when we're team building. We're smoothing out the edges, plugging it in, ensuring that it happens. Yeah? So it's a nuts and bolts process. It's a shared responsibility to maximize the group's potential. Okay, that's the team building responsibility. Teamwork responsibility. It's about getting the job done in the best way possible. Right? It's about the output, the outcome. Outcome can also include not just have I got the job done, have I got the best resources, have I got the best revenues? No. Outcome is how are we today as a team? Do we understand each other better? Are we, communicating? Sharon questioned, they don't want to work together. So at the end of it, you don't have a choice. They're all your employees, you hire them. They have to work together. So that is also an outcome. At the end of it, like you said, you have a team building exercise. End of it, do they really come together as a team? That's an outcome. At the end of working together as a group of people, have you become a team?
The best way to test this is during high pressure days. How teams actually, the guys who are friends with each other are actually cursing each other on that day because
but what's very interesting is
very momentary.
But what is very interesting is there is this whole approach, to developing organizations. It's called the appreciative inquiry approach, and it's been there for about 20 odd years. Okay. So what they do in appreciative inquiry is really take on the difficult days, right? So Valentine's Day, and you've had times 4 from your daily work, times 4, is what you have to do. How did they do it? They cursed each other, but how they supported each other. And really when you start, this is one way to bring a team together, to help them understand when we were under pressure and we delivered, we were successful. What went into that? Okay, so
What was the name you mentioned?
appreciative inquiry. It's by these two guys, Srivastav and Kupparaida.
This is more like you understand why the success came to you.
No, it's a whole model. It's about, taking things that are going well, and then you amplify it and you magnify it. Rather than saying, like you do in a SWOT, you say this works, this does not work. Okay, the pros and cons. Rather than that, you take what works.
Like
and
positive case
amplify
studies.
it.
Positive case studies.
So there's a process. It's a model, and there's the 4D process that you follow through. Thing. So it's a shared responsibility to achieve a result. That is what teamwork is. Yeah. So now we're going into all the stuff we were talking about is what impacts a team. So we're going to focus on just 4 aspects. Like I said, there are many, many more things. And I really like you to share whatever comes to your mind because I can't cover all of them. So I'm just going to look at culture, goals, drivers and values. Just 4 parts of it. Okay, now we're going to do a little exercise here.
tiny exercise. Can you read this?
No, not
No, you need paper or something?
No, not really. I'll put this on and you can kind of see. You have to elect a leader. Now this is election time, so I have 3 candidates here, and they're going to, be your prime minister. Okay. So we have 3 candidates here. The candidate 1 is a seasoned politician, charismatic. I'm not going to tell you if it's a male or a female, right? So charismatic. Policies appeal to the masses, popular with the middle class and lower socio-economic classes. Okay? Married with grown-up children. Committed to popular, his commitment to popular family values is questionable. Highly educated, radical, moral, social, economic views. Highly respected by experts. Well known and respected for contribution to the arts. So that's candidate number 1. Then you have candidate number 2, successful entrepreneur. Retired from active corporate work, but is now involved in social impact initiatives and very successfully done that. Has been doing that for the last 5 years, right? Has led industry delegations to international fora, made an impact, in all of those things. Is very influential world over. Has met presidents, prime ministers, all of that in the course of being a successful entrepreneur, right? And running a corporate, large corporate. Okay. Respected for pragmatism. Spent the last 5 years working at grassroots level. New to party politics. Okay. Then we have candidate number 3. Candidate number 3 is a seasoned and astute politician. Risen up party ranks. High school dropout. Candidate 1 and 2 are highly educated. Like top schools and top colleges and all that. Yeah. Experience of grassroots level and state level governance work. Okay. Known for pragmatic responses to social and political situations. Known as a friend of the industrialist and the common man. Known to be petty and unforgiving of critics. Controversial. The middle class has mixed feelings and thoughts about this person. Okay, so these are your 3 candidates. So I want you to spend Okay, so do you want to do that? Who's who? Let's see what I'd like you to just say. Who comes to your mind first? Who comes to your mind first? Candidate 3. Who comes to your mind in candidate 3?
Candidate 2 is Ratan grassroots level. Anna is
Modi. Who's that? Uddhav Thackeray, Modi. Who else? Sharad Pawar. Okay. Who else?
For the candidate, first candidate?
You just tell me who comes to your mind. Pops up me.
First candidate? For the first candidate?
First candidate. Okay. Who do you think?
I thought.
Who you
Third one.
Who do you have in mind?
second one, I think somebody like Ratan Tata kind of.
Ratan Tata. Second one?
Mr.
Who else?
Yeah, Nandan Nilekani was perfect for the second.
Any different other than Ratan Tata or Nandan Nilekani? Any other thoughts? A different name?
Amitabh Bachchan.
Amitabh Bachchan. Okay.
Rajiv Gandhi.
Rajiv Gandhi. Okay.
Entrepreneur is not. He was not an investor. He never took a corporate life.
Corporate.
Kiran still better than
Kiran Shaw. Okay. Okay.
And Azim Premji.
Azim Premji. Okay. First one. First one.
Just an
idea. Okay. All right.
Very ideal one. Right, just now quite
Shashi Tharoor. He is not grown up.
Shashi Tharoor. Okay?
No, this Devra family. Murli Devra temple.
Murli Devra.
Indra.
But he's not seasoned actor. Milan Devra. Okay. P. Chidambaram. P. Chidambaram. Because he's the education factor. Okay. So if you now stop to look at what we did here.
Associate values.
We had different people, different names, gender, all of that. Okay? Now, what I'm going to ask you to do is now I'm going to say you have to elect one member. So if you break yourself up into small groups, so we're going to get exactly 5 minutes to elect one.
Number 2, I want.
All of us will go for
Candidate number 2.
I will go one.
You have to check the rule. You have 3.
Yeah. Should we raise our hands? You call out candidate one. We are
Okay, candidate 1.
I would say one.
I also.
Second count.
Okay, candidate 2.
2.
Candidate 3.
Only one.
No, okay. So the 3 of you, why not 1 and 2?
See, the reason why I have chosen candidate 3 is because number 1 is he has got experience in grassroots level. Okay, that is the key thing. He knows how to deal with the ground reality,
To reach out to them.
which is very important. You know,
As a Prime Minister, having had Manmohan Singh.
I see, you can give all theoretical knowledge, but reality is very different.
How to handle them.
Which is what you have. And then he's known to be given for those pragmatic responses. Okay, and he has risen up, so he knows how to tackle the day-to-day situations.
So he's
He
experienced.
knows what
and
people
That
go
is
through.
what I find the strength.
Okay, who are the other 2 who said 2, 3? Okay, why would you choose not 1 and 2? Why not 1 and 2?
Not 2 definitely, because I don't want anybody who's new to party politics. Okay. Between 1 and 3, I did have a doubt. I mean, I could have selected 1 as well as 3, but finally I said 3 because again, you know, grassroots level, seasoned, astute politician.
Yeah.
I mean, he seemed to be a little the smart guy who, you know, known to be petty and unforgiving of critics. That's another, you know, quality which I thought, because like anything that you do, especially when you're a politician, there'll be thousands of them, you know, criticizing. So if you're going to listen to each one of them, you really cannot move ahead in your, you know, job that you want to do. So probably because of that, I said, let's get on the 3.
Who is the, yeah.
So basic reason is that the experience, what comes. And for me, when it's written that industrialist, or friends of the industrialist, I believe that if a nation has to grow, you have to have good policies promoting the industries. That is how a nation grows. So anybody who's a friend of industrialists, I would really support that person.
And common man, even
And the
friends of
So he knows who to take along with.
Yeah, it goes hand in hand.
That's very
Okay.
important.
So if we were to spend more time on this, what I would ask you to do is to come, all of you together, to come up with 1 candidate.
Yeah.
How many hours are you? Okay, so what we're saying here is really it's a daunting task. First and foremost, we have to figure out is this a man or a woman? We did. We have to agree because I'm not saying he's a man or any of them are men or women. I haven't talked about gender.
Did you
So
have
between-
specific people in mind? Or
No.
okay.
I didn't have any.
We'll construct one.
Yes. So you know, so you got to, is this a man or a woman? Now that itself changes the dynamic.
Right.
I mean, if it's a woman who really doesn't have any, you know, who has radical values, moral values, family values, questionable, how many of us are going to say yes? Yeah. So all of these things you start agreeing on. Okay. So the task is quite daunting. You first decide the gender in this exercise. Then you decide, okay, there are 3 people who have, the others have, most of you have not voted for number 3. Okay. Now you have to come up with 1 candidate. So either you can say, okay, majority, democracy, and we vote and we are done. But there are 3 people who are going to go dissatisfied. So imagine you have a team where 3 people are dissatisfied. You'll have passive aggression, you'll have everything else coming in. Okay? So these are the various dynamics that one has to work through. And you could sit hours and hours to do this. Right? So that is the idea of this exercise. So we'll talk about culture now.
But just before we get into culture, if you were to now take this back to the team, what you were just, kind of drawing comparisons, and if it's not politics and, you're trying to have, let's say, 3 decisions within a company, and not wanting 3 dissatisfied people leaving the room, how do you, and if you still feel that there is going to be this, how do you really resolve or come
What
to-
I do is we work on consensus building. In fact, what we do at Jivanti, a part of our whole team working exercise, we focus on team working. And we have, right down to front office, the Maushis, everybody, we talk about consensus building. What goes into consensus building, right? It's a whole facilitation, it's a skill where we're saying in a consensus, you compromise, you negotiate, you give some, you take some. So in this group, if we were to say come up with this one candidate, right? We have 3 people here who are different. What am I going to do? I have to convince these 3. What is it that's critical? Like she said, for me what was important was, okay, he can stand up to critics. I was between 1 and 3. So which one of her needs am I going to satisfy? If I
What
move her to
happens,
one. See, okay,
Can I
let's
share
go
something?
decision.
What happens when, so here if we are all making one decision and we are all sort of equal in the decision making process,
Yes.
what happens, like you described your team, where the people involved in making the decision all don't come from the same level of experience,
Correct.
or in the decision making process, there's an obvious hierarchy. Everyone in the team who's not, doesn't have as much of a stake, probably
Correct.
doesn't have as much of an understanding also.
Correct.
So they
Yes.
have their importance
Importance in it.
but they don't see the whole picture.
Correct.
So
So what
how
I'm
do
going
you-
to do here is I will take you to another part of it. When we're looking at culture.
I would like to share
Choose
something.
the right choice out of these 3.
Whoever the group chooses is the right choice.
See, I would
So
like
it's about how you work through the process. I'm going to now talk about, I brought in these 3 and asked you to take a decision on that. But really, what are the factors one needs to look at when I'm building a team or an ongoing, minute by minute, as we're talking, as we're growing, we have a minute by minute process. So what are the things I need to look at? Culture is one.
I would like to share something. Like I have taught almost for 20 years full time and then still part time. Now something like like when we assign grades to subjects. So there are like what qualities we need, and then we assign, make it objective, and then whoever wins in the aggregate, and the others have to accept it. Everyone doesn't come first in the class, and everyone does not fail. So something like that
this
should
is,
be done.
yeah. So this is one of the activities
Assessment.
that we will take in order to be a successful working team. Problem solving, by
We choose somebody.
this will be one of the things that we will do.
I have some thought just entered my mind. If we have diverse views like this, can we not prioritize as to what our goal is and what is important in that person to achieve that goal? And then, as a matter of priority, then decide, okay, this has to be there, this has to be there, this has to be there. These 3 things, if they are not there, it's fine because our goal is achieved.
Exactly.
We could also
So
prioritize
now
it
we
that
will
way.
have different opinions on that. So how do
They
you
would
deal with
have.
that?
Yeah. So what are we doing? So as a leader of this group, as a team leader, or as a
Give some
Actually, the space in front.
how much time do we have?
Need to share.
Because I can see that we are getting into a lot of discussions, so I'm really conscious. There's a chair here.
Yeah, no, that's for you. And also get one here, so
I guess the priorities need to be decided by the leader.
Yeah. So now what will determine that? You see, because what we're saying here is we've established that there is value to ensuring that everybody's voice is heard and everybody's opinion is listened to and accepted. Okay? So that is important. We realize that produces results. That makes us effective, makes us efficient. Right? So if it is the delivery boy telling us let's have pink tags, it's leading to efficiency. So we've realized and we recognize that is an important aspect of it. So what are the other things?
matter.
It matters.
In
But
that
as leaders of a team and you're facilitating a group, at the end of the day you have to arrive at a decision. We don't have a day to sit here and debate who and why and what. We have a limited amount of time. So what is it that we're looking for? one of the things we look at, what are we governed by? Our decisions are governed by. I'll just take you back about culture. Okay? One of the things we're looking at is look for culture. What is the culture of that group? What is my culture? Right? Of that society that I'm in. So here you have culture as a collective. There is this Gert Hofstede who's done a lot of work on culture, and I'll show you something else which is also quite interesting to all of us. Okay? So it is the way we program our mind, it is the way we are, the way we think, the way we do things. Okay? It's tradition. It's a lot of things that have come down to us, the way we respond to situations, based on a lot of our needs and things like that. Right? So that's one. The other aspect of culture, okay, it's talking about what I perceive, how I interpret what's happening in the moment. So we've got two, they're aligned and yet not aligned. Okay. So when I'm talking about what is this perceived interpretation, typically we would use that in a conflict situation. So what does the Israeli think of the Palestinian? Because he's had a history, there's an interpretation, there's a perception. Notions, which are hammered in time again, and then of course I will go look and I will have that experience and it just goes back into my head. You know, women are like this or whatever. Yeah. So some of it. This is what affects some of our decision making or thinking pattern. The other is clearly stating that we are all programmed like that. So we are Indians. Indians have a certain culture. I come from the south of India. If you ask an Indian, they say, no, the South Indian and the North Indian and the East Indian and the Northeast Indian and the Western Indian is different. But there is a certain programming, societal programming that's happening, right? So we're going into, as organization, we have a culture. And that culture is driven by the value proposition of the business. What is the business I'm in here for? What is the value proposition that I bring for? Say for example for us at Jivanti, what is my value proposition here? Is to provide healthcare, which is not low cost but affordable. It's not going to, make me come back. Right? It has to be affordable healthcare to a certain section of people, of a certain kind. And that's the value that I'm adding to my community, the community I work with. Right? That's my business value proposition. So each one of us have a business value. You know whatever it is that you're distributing dental products here, or you have a web thing that you're selling, yeah, or you're into books and whatever else that you're publishing. There's a value, a business proposition, and that will govern what you do. So if you're in retail, your customer has to be treated in a certain way. And that will determine the culture. You have to be a caring organization if you're going to provide, or a service-oriented organization if you're going to provide service to your customer. I have to be a caring organization if I'm going to take care of health of people, something that's very close to their hearts. Okay? So my organization has a certain culture, a certain base, or a certain area within which I operate and I think, and that becomes part of my being. The other is what drives its leaders. If you're in an NGO and the idea is service to people, and I run an ashram, that's the vision, that's the idea that the vision, the founders have come up with. That's what they want to achieve.
Won't we say that the passion what you have?
Your passion that you have, yeah.
Passion would create that culture.
The business culture.
Right, it will. So the whole organization has a certain passion, a certain way of doing things, which the founders bring in, or the people who started it bring in. They want to do, it could even be, I want to make a lot of money. Yeah. So healthcare is booming, it's multi-million, there are millions of people there. It's only a 1:1,000. It should be 4:1,000 ratio. 4 beds to every 1,000. Currently, there's only 1 bed to 1,000 people. I can make a lot of money. That's fine. But that's what drives the owners or the founders or whatever. Okay. The mission, vision, and the values. The values of the people. By values, you're really talking about what the core of your being. what's right, what's wrong, what's okay, what's not okay. Okay? So this is something that governs how a group sees itself, how a team works, when we put a stop, when we say yes, when we say, so if more, this in this exercise we said this candidate, questionable morals, family values, yeah, if that is important, if I belong to some religious sect which believes very firmly in monogamy and all of that stuff, and all that, then I'm not going to be able to accept a candidate who has questionable moral values. So the culture of this group is important. The culture of the organization will drive certain yeses and nos. Okay? The society that we live in, society's values are governed by the geography, the history, and its traditions. If I live by the coast, I eat fish. Nothing much cruise on the sand. But if I'm in a vegetarian organization that believes in it and veganism, and that's what drives you, and then the culture of that society is, it's going to be very difficult for you to work in, with a bunch of fish-eating people. Okay, so the history is what have we been conquered, have this happened, has that. So if you like, you look at Delhi, sociologically Delhi, if you look at Delhi right through historically as well, it's always been conquered, yeah. So people are used to, from time immemorial, being raided, plundered, coming up again, falling, coming up again. So there's a certain tenacity about the thing. The tenacity and the way they do business. Yeah. Today I have a Mercedes, tomorrow I'm taking my scooter, and it's all fine. Go up and come down. But that's, so there if I start talking about high risk and being conservative and not taking this risk, it probably won't work. So if there's a mismatch because the organization is about being safe, and Sharanya will talk about legal risk and be safe, and here's a guy who says, forget it, yeah, tomorrow I'll get something else. It may not work in that team. So these are the dynamics between, the cultural dynamics. So I'm going to talk about this guest, Gert Hofstede, who's done a lot of interesting work, and perhaps it will give you a little peek into what this is about. Yeah? So he's done a lot of work, and what this person has done is, it's a Dutch guy who's worked on these 6 aspects of culture. Okay? So it's been classified. It's again classic, you can look up any Google and read it. Yeah? So it's been classified as masculine society, feminine society, individual. So what we're saying is that a masculine society is one which is very aggressive, a feminine society is probably one that is more caring and more socialistic and more, larger, well-being.
Like Japan and
so a Scandinavian country, for example, is an individual where the individual is important.
And Russia will be collectivism.
But it's a feminine society. In the sense of feminine values are pervade. Therefore, you have more welfare schemes, although it's an individualistic society. A collective society is one where you're looking for the larger good. But a masculine collective will have a different way of looking at things. Okay? So it's a power distance. Power distance is really talking about how is power distributed or authority distributed. So like we were talking about a little earlier, you have the expert and then you have somebody who doesn't know. Right? So where do you fall in? So if it's an expert committee meeting and I call, my delivery boy, who according to me I believe is an expert in delivery, which I will never be able to, because I don't deliver. So I don't know how it works. But if I say that no, but I'm the doctor and he's just, the delivery boy, I don't know his job. So that distance is very wide. Then we'll never be able to appreciate or include people like that. Okay? So this is pragmatic normative. When you have the time, look at it. It's interesting to sort of understand, and then you use it, apply it in your day-to-day. Now this is why India really stands. You can't see too clearly. Power distance in the Indian society is very high, which means we're very hierarchical. very hierarchical, right? So now in a group of a bunch of Indians, and we are very paternalistic and masculine. So our masculinity, if you look at, where are we on masculinity? Jordan, can you see? Let me see from here. Yeah, the third one. Okay, so we are higher on the masculinity scale. We're closer to 60. So we're going to be very aggressive, and we often say, in a group the women don't get hurt, we have to shout, we have to push. That's where it comes from. So now if you want to start a team meeting, and when there's more equanimity amongst us and less power distance is what you want to create, you've got to bring in those aspects of including people. That's the diagnosis.
Inclusivity.
So I'm diagnosing this team in the moment and saying that this is a masculine team. This is being dominated. How do I know it's a masculine team? There are a bunch of experts there, bunch of men who are not letting anybody else speak. That's the data which I've gathered. Bunch of men, bunch of whatever, experts, even if they're women, not letting anybody else speak. My diagnosis says this is a power distance, expert, non-expert. So what do I bring in? That's the diagnosis that I make in the moment. And then I build my team in the moment and I make it work. Okay?
This is sorry on the basis of some study.
Yeah, this Get Hofstadter has done this entire thing, mapped some 50 odd countries on this. So you know when Indians are like this, the US are like this, you can do comparisons. So if you have two groups, you have a bunch of Americans and a bunch of Indians together, and you know now, what's going to tick off whom, and what are the kind of interventions you need to make to bring them together.
What are the lowest on?
What are we lowest on?
Good question.
Indulgence and restraint. Basically what we're saying is we are very restrained. Indulgent is the top end and restraint is the bottom end. So we typically will not, if something is going to go wrong, and if I'm in a bunch of my seniors and I know I'm not going to be able to deliver, I'm very restrained about it, and that's really our downfall. I don't take that risk to say. Okay, these are the other thing that we're talking about, drivers. What is the other impact? Drivers. These are observable behaviors and actions. What drives somebody to do something?
Passion.
What drives me to be assertive in that
A need.
my needs as a person, or as a group. What drives that organization to hold a particular kind of teamwork or meeting? Right? Okay, so it directs the group's way of functioning. So if we are in a sales team who's talking all about revenues and meeting targets and all of that, and you say, no, you've got to be gentle and caring and don't disturb someone at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, forget it. It's not going to work. Okay? What drives them is achievement, revenues, targets, that's what's driving them. Success, caring is not going to work. So in a group when you have a team, you've got to say that, okay, these are the drivers of the team. These are the things that drive this team. Then there's the organization that has drivers. We all have to meet our targets. However caring, whatever I may be, I have to meet my target. So then how do you reconcile? How do I take care of your needs? Do the organizations need to be a caring organization? Like in our case, we're in healthcare, we have to be a caring organization. But we have to meet our targets. We have to get our revenues. So how do you balance those two, match those in that team? So I might negotiate and say, okay, don't go at 2 o'clock, but go at 4. Or go at 12 o'clock, not at 2. Whatever that combination is. Yeah? Okay, now this is Dr. Uday Parekh, who died some years ago. He came up with this model which we use. It's called the motivation analysis of behaviors of organizations and the behaviors of organizations. So he basically categorized the way we work, as supervisors into a technocrat or an altruistic intention. What are my motivation, my intentions? So if in that group, okay, we are a group of altruistic people, right? Or a group for whom our motivation to be in this group is to be friends and to stay friends. If that's my motivation, then I will not allow conflict to emerge. I will not allow two people to argue. So we go out for a party. We're all here to have a good time. Two of them are going to have a fight. We don't allow that to happen. We diffuse it. You'll have a joke, you'll share a joke, you'll do anything to stop that from happening. But if you're a team and a group of people who are here to deliver a product or recommend something, if I have people whose affiliations are very strong, wants to be friends. So if you observe someone there saying, no, it's okay, we'll manage, or no, don't disturb, or things like that, that's when you know they need to keep their friendships going or their relationships going is very high, and that can actually disrupt, won't allow you to bring out the conflicts which are important to resolve or to arrive at a common decision.
Motivation, we're talking about individuals in the team, or we're talking about the team as a
It could work both. It could work as a company. Say, for example, if your your company as a whole, right? Suppose you have a monopoly of a product, and that's your company. You've got this monopoly in the market, right? The company will never allow anybody else to control. They will always look at ways and means to create dependence on them. Now, if I have a team who says, no, let's not, let there be many more people in the market, let's have competition, let's have some fun, the company will probably push it down. And I, who want to have competition and want to have fun of a different kind, will probably have to exit. I will be shouted down in that team. So it can work for a company, as an organization, it can work as a small team. So if my achievement motivation is very high, okay, and someone talks about cost cutting, and the marketing guy says, no, I want 4 lakhs this month for my market spend. And the accountant says, no, the money hasn't come in, we're cutting costs. And the guy, accountant, has a need for affiliation and be always dependent on the marketing guy, whatever his promotions or whatever, and he's not going to open up. So then it becomes our responsibility to say, okay, what's the financial situation? The finance guy is not talking. In the moment I've diagnosed that, I'm not hearing everybody's voice. Yeah? So it can work at any level. Again, this is available, you could look it up, document that how it is. The goals, you have group goals, they're driven by the organization's need. And then you have the personal goal driven by my personal needs. I want to buy the Jaguar. So I need to make X amount. The organization's goal could also be that everybody has a Jaguar. Right? So our goals are, what are the goals of this group? What are we trying to achieve here in this meeting? Create recommendations for marketing and product. Okay? The values. So values are really principles or standards of behavior and action. It's a judgment of what is important to us. I will not bribe. It's important. It's not something I will.
Ethics.
Yeah. Those are my values. I will not do it. Okay. So here again you have organization's values and personal values. And these could conflict, these could be aligned. What are the values you're standing up? So if I have that group, in this group we were saying, okay, who are we going to elect? So we have somebody here who's, pretty much a moderate, not restricting himself or herself to social norms, right? And that's important to some. But the focus is on the right candidate with the right skills. How does it matter what his personal life is like? You might argue that. So the goal is to elect the leader who's right, who's going to do things, bring us from point A to point B, or achieve whatever the group's objectives are. Yeah? But my personal values might come into it. Like I did this exercise with my team, and they had to do the entire thing, and also come up with one leader in their small groups of 4. And this one lady she had a similar sort of situation. She said no. She said iska mistress hai, so I'm not going to allow him to vote. He has a mistress. She decided it was a male and then he has a mistress. And I'm not going to let you vote for this person. So, you know, the rest of them had to give in to her. Said, okay, theek hai, so, you know, let's take a third candidate who doesn't have this problem of having a mistress. Right? But by and large, they have, so let's mix and match. So sometimes it's about that consensus building, you know, what is really important. So everybody walks away. Her candidate was number 2. The others were trying to convince her number 3 is good. So what if it's his personal life? Forget it. Doesn't matter. So they finally compromised and they brought it together and said, okay, 1. Because it met everybody's needs. She left feeling good. They also felt like they didn't lose. And that's what consensus is about. It's not about democracy. My vote, numbers here. So it's about going down to that level to say everybody, it is a long process. It takes 2 hours instead of 1. But at the end of it, you have something that everybody owns and everybody is willing to commit themselves. That process, and I suppose as your team gets more used to it, it goes faster and faster and faster, and they're able to, you know, sort of sift the wheat from the chaff.
I think we're going to cover it because I just connected to what you were saying, you know, to get the leader in. Now, when you get a leader in amongst those 3, you know, you get one of those leaders in, and if you were to do another exercise after that at some point, and there is a particular culture or a particular team value that gets built along the way, and then you realize that it's the wrong person that you wanted.
You've got to be fighting.
How do you do rectification of culture? You know, I don't know if we're going to cover that, but
I was just about to see, I'm not really going to, but what is rectification of culture?
How
is
to change it.
Yeah, so what happens is, you know, it's very important for us as an organization. If you look at the organization as a society, okay, now we've, like for example, where we are, okay, healthcare is a different way of working. Yeah? While we might have corporates and all of that, it's just that the culture is very top down. It's very parochial. Okay, and here we are a bunch of people who've come from non-parochial, from banking and NGOs who believe in equality and, you know, no power distance and all of that. Yeah, so we've come from that sort of a background. Somewhere, yes, it is an changing of that culture. And it's continuously saying that no, every voice counts. So you have to change that. It's a process, it's a commitment. Do I really believe this as my organization's value? Okay, like you were saying, nobody leaves us, everybody stays. So we don't fire people, but we make them competent.
I think closest I can relate in our business is about hiring people. Like this is about having a bad hire or maybe training them, putting them in VIP and having them as corporate as you want.
As you want them. So if your belief is that everybody can be, your organization's belief is that everybody can be developed, everybody can learn, then it has to reflect in your hiring, firing policy.
Like I can share, we've always believed, ours is a family-run business. It was founded by my husband. I'm carrying it forward. So we've always believed that our work is your second house. It's not of a family. And families also, like in real life families, we are different people coming from different. Some are born by blood relation, and otherwise husband and wife come together. And positive outlook is we need to understand each other and go ahead. That's what we do it at our workplace. If I am selecting someone, I'm accepting the person the way it is. We don't challenge them to change, but we capitalize on their positives. So that's where my expertise come in place, where I can identify what are his needs, what are his values, and how we can sync in with the organizational culture.
So what we're also saying is now if you find someone who's drastically different, you probably wouldn't hire.
Absolutely.
Okay, so now you're looking at a team size of 10, but now we're going into thousands. So then it's a question of scaling.
What happens when
so
you can't choose every time you plug in?
Correct. So what you do is, therefore you come into other forms of, understanding analysis. That's where all these various tools come in. So you find the kind of tool, like you could do, suppose values are very important, family values, relationships are very important. Okay, so you might find a tool which focuses on values, or you might find a tool that focuses on something else to hire. So we scale up, we do other things. your policy of hire and fire. When do you fire someone? What kind of opportunities? Like, we also don't fire people, also because it's very difficult for us to hire. So we don't fire. Okay? We just have to, work at it and get it and keep them for as long as we can, right? It's very difficult to find people. So what do? We have a series of opportunities that we give, right? So our first 6 months, or what we call probation, there is a clear mandate who learns what in week 1, week 2, week 3, what sort of, and there's a process of correcting along the way. At the end of 6 months, really don't fit it. Then we'll have to let them go.
Yes. But we follow the same
Correct? So then your policy has to reflect that. If I don't have a way in which to support their learning, then I'm not giving my values. So I think that's where so it's a conscious process of constantly understanding, these are our values, this is how we did, this is what is in, this is not, and this is the culture of the place. How do I mold it to ours? And some businesses, because they culturally don't fit, they have to be thrown out. I mean, Rajneesh had to be thrown out. He didn't fit into it. If you look at Rajneesh as an organization, he had to be thrown out. He had to leave. So sometimes that happens. Culturally, you don't fit. Or the business doesn't fit. Okay, now this is another gentleman called Richard Barrett who worked a lot on values. Just giving you an example of what could be important. Yeah. So he's looked at the 7 levels. It basically follows Maslow's hierarchy, but he's put in, our survival, relationship, self-esteem, transformation, internal. Okay. So now service. So I'm going to take service as an extreme example of it. Yeah, the top end. So in service, when we're talking about service to humanity, so you have an NGO, which is service to humanity. I go to the NGO and I start talking, and I'm the person who's talking about equity and getting rich and this, and I'm in the wrong place. Okay. So the values of the organization will relate to service to humanity. The kind of activities they do will relate to service to humanity. The kind of teamwork the downside of it is that we may never, which is having worked 15 years in NGOs, my biggest crib has always been, you guys don't have a number, an output, to say that, okay, so many rescued, changed, or I have changed the, society in this way, poverty is down, but you don't have those numbers. But then, it doesn't have to be at the survival level. I could be somewhere here, at the transformation, so I could push the organization.
It's on a hierarchy, is it?
No. This is just mapping where, So like I said, in an NGO, it's already.
What is that diagram really signifies?
It is really. It just kind of. This is this point.
It keeps on going up.
It's a transformation.
Like a sand clock.
It's a transformation. Point of transformation. Okay. So as the organization grows, to start like I start out, we're always looking at where's my next order coming from. Where's my next? We're at here. We're at survival. But we recognize relationships. You're probably here at these 3, at my self-esteem, relationship, and survival. I started. But I've grown, I've reached a certain point, and I can go into the transformation. So when I can start talking CSR, I can start talking this, I can start, value adding. Or some organizations are right here. So again, it's a question of mapping. In my team, I'm having this team meeting and there's chaos and we're not getting anywhere. I need to make an intervention. What are the values the team holds? Is somebody at survival, and the other person is at, do good to the world, is talking about CSR. So that's the mismatch. So can we, find a way to address both issues? And that's the intervention you bring in to make your team work. So we're trying to identify what are the values. And actually it sounds very thing, but if you actually sit together and you figure out what is really critical for me. At this point, what is really critical to get this job done? It's about my teamwork. I have to make a recommendation on which projector to buy. And we're talking about, no, you know, this NGO, give them, they're not very good, but give them because they will buy from them because, you know, they're helping so many people. The other guy says, no, sorry buddy, I only have this much money and it has to spread over so much. The warranty is important to me. So where do we come, you know, make that? So then the value, somebody is operating from there and the other is operating from survival. It's actually quite, you know, you start looking at it, it's quite simple. It sounds very complicated. This again, you could, you know, read about it. He's done a lot of work on all these consciousness and leaderships and conscious leading and all of that. Now making teams work. I think we've done most of this. According to me, it's a balancing act. I've only picked up these 4 parts of it. In a team, you're always confronted with my need and that group or the organization's need at that point in time. An organization calls for a team meeting because it has an agenda, it has to deliver something at some point. My need is, my personal need is for that Jaguar to make money, and the organization is talking about something else. And it's a balancing act. My need is to save money and somebody else's need is to spend money. And the organization is talking about spending. I'm the finance guy, I don't know how I'm going to pay the loan, and here's somebody saying, no, no, let's spend the money. How much risk are we willing to take? So it's always, or I might come from a culture which says, save, save, save. You know, when we talked about the pragmatic and normative culture. So I might come from a culture, the normative culture is more traditional. Say, well, let's go slowly, we'll spend some, we'll save some, we'll spend. Whereas pragmatic is, here's an opportunity, go for it, you know, get it. Let's deliver. So I might come from a culture which says, no, be cautious, save, like they often say South Indians are, you know, very conservative and, you know, they take one little baby step at a time, you know. So that could be my societal culture that I grew up with that is affecting how this team works. Whereas it may be important for me to take a pragmatic, to go with a pragmatic decision. So therefore what would I do? I would say that, hey look, you seem to want to take lower risk. So what's stopping you? So what are the downsides to taking that big risk? What are the upsides? So that's where your solutioning comes in. Let's take one step at a time. What are the downsides? What are the upsides? Okay, now let's come to rationalization. Team conflicts. What I've done is I've mashed it against the culture, right, to make it easier to. So when I say that, it could be an aggressive achiever versus a caring person. So that's a masculine, feminine. Let's identify as aggressive, whatever. Okay, my targets versus all our targets are met. Individual or collective. Okay, so that is an individual and a collective. Right. This is how it is done versus a consensus builder. So that's why we're saying that my way. So there's a power distance done by way or highway. So here you have the uncertainty avoidance. That is, you know, how much risk am I, how being, it's like, you know, somebody who needs, people who need a map. They say, no, I need to know the exact distance in to the last 100 meters to this rate, only then will I go. They'll say, okay, yeah, I have a mota-moti figure or idhar ho jayega, so let's go. You know? So that is the avoidance, uncertainty avoidance. How much uncertainty am I willing to avoid? That would be, say, plan A, plan B, plan C, plan D versus plan A. Right? So I grab an opportunity now versus change slowly. Little to lose versus minimum risk. So this is just an indicator of how can I diagnose my team at that moment. Making teams work. What makes teams work and what makes them unwork? Avoidance of conflict. I think this is something that we all, you know, conflict is actually healthy. As we say in organizational development, it brings, conflict means somebody is involved. You know, they're talking, they're sharing. A conflict doesn't mean we're at war. It just means that there is a difference of opinion.
We can agree to disagree.
At least they're open.
They're open. Yes. They're listening. Absolutely. Okay. To avoid that would probably means you're shutting somebody out. You're probably losing something.
It will come back again as a volcano sometime. If I suppress today, some other
it'll come
way,
some
it
way
will
on.
come
I
some
will,
other
yes.
thing.
Typically we get passive aggression. I just won't cooperate. Diffusing situations. So I crack a joke and that's it. Really, rather than allowing it to surface. Whatever the differences are. So you either fight it out and compete. Okay? Inappropriate decision making process. So here what I'm talking about, when you need to be authoritative and say, okay, this is what we're going to do, and instead we say, okay, let's have a democratic vote, or let's build consensus. Sometimes you have to say this and not that. And so if you're a person of authority, I'm the decision maker in a team leader, somewhere you have to draw the line. But if I'm here to keep everybody happy, I would probably not take a decision. Not including all voices, and silence. Silence is, I have an opinion, but I'm afraid to speak. I don't share it now. Close. And we could all follow. Data that I haven't shared. So what do on the other hand? You make those compromises. You call people and you invite their own opinions. You get people to speak. You get them involved.
Are there any specific tips towards ego resolution?
Meditation.
Gender basis suggestions.
Open to all. Gender can be exposed.
suggestions. I think India gender based is always
Not India, the whole world.
This culture, our culture.
It is our culture. So perhaps it's more about accepting and acknowledging. Look, this is gender based. Yeah. So am I going to shut up because it's gender based, or should I just ignore it and say what I have to say?
So should we be aggressive or should we be passive?
We should be passive,
Passive
aggressive.
That's
We can have a mix of both.
Yeah, exactly.
Do it.
Yeah, it depends
In a
on
very
the
quiet
situation.
way.
If I'm going to bring up my feminist card all the time, no one's going to listen to me. When
It should be very small
Then
changes.
it's right in their
Exactly.
criticism. If you just keep aside the female part of you and talk the logic part of
Yeah,
it,
Depends on
matter.
situation to situation.
No, one thing which I have been doing, let's not talk and just act. See, women, what happens, we talk, गरजते हैं, बरसते नहीं हैं. मैं जाऊंगी. So one thing, because I work with women, that's one thing I've discovered over the years, कि stop talking, stop telling what you will not do, don't do it. You don't want to cook tonight's food, dinner, don't cook, that's it. Action speak much louder. And if they say ना क्यों नहीं किया, हाँ नहीं किया, नहीं मर्जी की, must speak. Don't even try to defend.
So I think it's really about, being clear. This is what is happening there. There's an alertness and aliveness to what is happening in the moment. And then you take the decision. Okay, so now what do we do? How do I gather data? Okay, so I ask questions like, why do we see the same people situations in different ways? We had that exercise, we said this is Modi, this is so-and-so, this is so-and-so. Why is it that we see things, so in this moment, why am I seeing things differently from you, from her?
We need to see
That
all,
will give me an idea.
all perspectives.
Can I ask that question? Why is it different? Is there a cultural difference? Is there an agenda difference? What is that difference? What do I need to address? Okay? To what extent is our view of ourselves influencing our view of others? What Sharon, what you just talked about. I'm a woman, women never get hurt. So I need to get addressed. So it's a view of myself as being disempowered, as being shouted down, which then so is that being reflected? So I will now sit up and play my feminist card and call all the women in the group and say, no, this is a women's only and whatever I do. So the view of myself is getting reflected. Yeah? What do we dislike about others which might be unreasonably harsh reaction? He's too loud. So I'm going to shout him down. The other is the other end of it. I'm being unreasonably generous. Women are downtrodden, so let me excuse her. As many reservations as policies as possible. and therefore may not be actually contributing to the team's performance. Right? Where do our biases come from, and what do we perceive as the group's needs now? Does the group need a decision? Does the group need time out? Does the group need tea? Does it need, what does it need now? Okay. Are we judging situations, people subjectively rather than objectively? That's when we talk about, let's have this pros and cons, you know, what are the various solutions, you know, are we just going around about what you like, I don't like, this, your needs, my needs, you know, am I just pandering up to people's egos? Yeah. And finally, this according to me, teams are a collective of individuals. While the achieved outcomes is sum of its working parts. So all parts of my team are working. Every member comes in and every voice is heard and every skill is used. Then I have the outcome that I desire. Now any questions, any comments, anything you want to, it's free for all. So I think the bottom line is really it's about, you know, when every one of us has a responsibility, like I brought back earlier. Even if I'm going out to have fun with my friends, I have a responsibility to contribute to that. No, it just doesn't work if I say that मुझे नहीं आता है. Ask a stupid question. We have to ask a stupid question. Even if I'm the boss and I don't know. So I think it's really that, really bringing out everything from everybody that makes them.
Are there some tips or some things to read up or think about or talk about in specifically for consensus building? We all of course discuss the diversity that exists, whatever ways, whether it is cultural background, whether it is educational background, whether it is because of what part of India we come from or how much we work, or what level of the hierarchy we are in. All of these things will influence our opinion on what the division on the table is or what we are in the team for. And we discussed, you know, what do we do when somebody, what do we do when we make a mistake? When I say we, I mean here I'm assuming we are all sort of leaders and trying to build a team culture, and there is a team and we are not, just to admit it, we are not equals there. How do you build that consensus in the sense that they don't feel left out when they are
I think this is really about, this is what consensus is about.
So what do you...
So what we're saying here is that, you know, often in my consulting work, we've often measured an organization by how they handle mistakes. Okay? How punitive or how forgiving are they? Sometimes they're so forgiving that we keep committing the same mistakes. Right? So what is that balance that a company uses, and the health of the organization is also measured by how do they see feedback and how do they work with mistakes. Is it blame? Is it yelling? Is it just bypassing it? Okay. So when we start talking about consensus building, yes, I know I have the big picture, and all said and done, there is a hierarchy. And the buck will stop with each one of us. It doesn't, you know, that's where the decision, am I willing to stick my neck out and take that decision, right? And hurt a few people, or not accept some ideas. But in that process, am I able to share why I'm not accepting? So how open, transparent, consensus building has a lot of transparency involved.
I think it starts from the core team. So when, for example, to give an example in my organization, the call center team, earlier there was, you know, after a couple of years we realized that a couple of corporate clients are not really, booking orders from us anymore. And why did that happen? Because of an issue that had happened, which was, pushed under the carpet. It never came up front. So then we formed this, our monthly meetings or bi-monthly meeting where we say, we only discuss compliments and complaints.
Yes.
And we say it is okay to make a mistake once, but we need to understand how you have rectified that mistake. So that was something that we discussed. So when a new member now, when he joins in, since the core team knows and they've gone through that, and we've realized, we've shown them how we have lost a customer, how much revenue we have lost because of that. And we say everybody's gone through it. So, for example, and things can be, really crazy. The date is very important because it's a special occasion. So you miss the date and you've gone.
That's
so,
it.
So there have been flowers which have been delivered 1 month earlier if we have got orders in advance because of a month and date problem. Right? So we realized and identified why such a mistake can happen. We rectify, so we help an individual understand that why is he facing a problem or which particular data that he should be more careful when he's entering, when it comes to this. So now people understand, they know. So they come up and say, okay, this week or this last week, this was an error because of me. And this is what I did to, to rectify it. And we call back the customer, we gave him a complimentary, box of chocolates, so whatever. So, everything is kind of sorted out. So I think it's very important for us as business heads to inform the team that if you make a mistake, it is okay to come out and say, nobody's going to yell at you, for the first time or maybe for the second time or but then, if it's happening repeatedly, then you know that there's something wrong. So
that's one, and the other is what happens when I make mistakes.
What happens when you make the mistake, or what happens when your staff performer makes the mistakes, or what happens when someone who
so it's really important. So if I believe and if I've set the process, like she says, for error and mistakes are not not to be condemned. You're not going to be chopped off. Your neck is not going to be on the block because you've made a mistake. In which case, I also have to have that the same thing of saying I made a mistake and this is how I've rectified. So there is the ego, the hierarchy. Consensus is also about leveling that. I mean, like I often say, look, the buck stops with me. You guys can say whatever. I know at the end of the day what the compulsions are. And to some extent, yes. But I'm willing to say that this I can't accept because it doesn't fit in. Like we often have this thing about, the healthcare has, everybody's aware of it, giving commissions to doctors who refer. We don't believe in it. Okay, so there's a tremendous amount of pressure from our sales team. No, we can't. We can't deliver.
It's a
not
policy,
giving,
but a value of the
call it
organization.
in jargon is CUT. I don't know, they spell it like nobody can understand what it means. CUT is what they call it. Usko CUT chahiye is what they tell us, But really what they're saying is we don't deliver. So I say, yes, I'm wrong. You might not deliver the numbers. Yeah, and you say you haven't delivered for this reason, but let's find another way of doing it.
So basically, as a leader, you need to give them solution also. I mean,
yes.
Try out 3-4 solutions.
There has to be an alternative.
We can try this. We can try this.
Also to take a little bit of what you said and a little bit of what you said and incorporate it in my thinking. That's where the consensus comes in.
Another thing was, suppose if they have a problem, then what is the solution you have in mind? Instead of this,
sometimes even your solution doesn't work.
Exactly.
Maybe trying out 3-4 things, 3-4 solutions, come up with something. Trying out 3-4 solutions, one of them will work.
Yeah, or to say that, I think, what works for us is to say that, the thing is, it also worked for us because we are not, from the healthcare, we are not medical professionals. Right? We're managers. And we're from a business background. We're not healthcare professionals. So when somebody comes to be able to say, or like I do this even in my coaching, I do a lot of executive coaching and other coaching, mentoring and business coaching and all of that as part of the consulting business. So one of the things that I had a client who said to me, while she was my coachee, and she had